What's up, everyone? Now, I don't shoot music videos, right? I don't purposefully seek out to shoot, produce, edit music videos. I've done a couple. If it's a special occasion or someone that I like, I'll do one. And that's the case for this video. That's the reason for this video. Last fall, I shot a music video for Jenna Paulette, if you're in the country music genre, if you love that kind of music. Personally, I don't listen to country music really that often at all, but I know who she is because my brother shot a lot of content for her, for her tours, for her cover albums, things like that for social media. So I knew who she was and I've been keeping up with her a little bit. This video right here is going to be divided up into two sections. The first section is going to be my gear, my setup, why I chose to shoot it the way that I did. And then the second part is how I edited the footage. So to dive into the first part of this video, the gear, the camera, the setup, and why we did it the way we did. This is the actual rig built back up to what we had that day. So everything is exactly as it was the day that we shot that video. Here is the Sony FX6, as you can see, with the Tilta protective cage on there. It also, with this cage, it comes with a V-mount power adapter on the back. So the whole day we were running V-mount. On the back, we have the Sony screen, which comes with the camera. This back screen is really good for checking exposure or waveforms. It's also good to use as a backup in case anything happens to the big top screen. For my external monitor, I was running the OC Tech T7 external monitor. In this, I was running the Phantom neutral LUT through it, not baking it onto the footage, but using it as a reference to what I was going to be doing in the edit later on. This is actually a really cool addition here from Nicey Rig, is that instead of putting your monitor on your hot shoe on top of your top handle, which is, I've seen people having problems of putting big monitors on the top and it bending the metal or kind of ruining the hot shoe. You can, this is an attachment to attach to the side of your top handle, which then has a plate, like a shoe plate on top where you can attach your monitor there and it's less stressful on your top handle hot shoe. So running that monitor up top, it is powered by the V-mount. So running all the way down the side, the V-mount, there's kind of a mess of cables, but it works. Then also there is a HDMI feed going to that monitor straight from the camera on the back. Also running the Sennheiser MKE 600 on the top as kind of more of a better scratch audio, because you don't get good scratch audio really from the FX6. It's just kind of a reference, especially when Jenna, our talent, was on camera and singing, lip singing, or just singing along with the music. It's really helpful to have that scratch audio. And lastly, probably the most interesting and most important part of this build setup is the lens choice. We shot it on the full frame Sirui Anamorphics, specifically the 50mm and the 75mm. These are, as you probably already know, T2.9. They've got a 1.6 squeeze factor on them. And they are extremely sharp. So if you have or have not seen the video, which will be linked either up top or down in the show notes, there are flashbacks in Jenna's life back to when she was a child. And because these lenses are so sharp, they worked really well for present day, but for the shots and for the scenes that were meant to be flashbacks, we decided to put a really heavy mist on the lenses for those shots. And then we also in post added some pretty heavy grain and really just dirtied up the footage. You may be asking too, why did you choose to shoot anamorphic on this video? The real reason is because we did our research beforehand and noticed that all of her other videos, all of her other music videos that had been shot for her were all shot anamorphic. A few other quick little notes from the entire shoot day are that we shot the entire thing handheld. So I actually shot the entire video just like this. Handheld with some natural movement, natural body movement, which we liked. I didn't have an easy rig or anything like that. I just muscled it all day. For the shots where Jenna was singing on camera, we had a really large wireless speaker that we were using where we could just blast the song, and she was singing along to it, which made it really natural. And in post, that made it really easy to match up her lips to the song. And I think we actually ended up doing the performance of the song about 6 different times just to get different takes, with her using her guitar or singing out on fields, different depths, getting close, getting far, just so we can have 4, 5, or 6 different looks for that performance side of things. One very quick thing before I jump into the second part of this video is that also to get that old-timey look, flashback look into Jenna's life, we also shot some 8mm footage, Wes did in particular,